Hello, everyone. Welcome. Glad that you're here. Today, we are going to dive into another game changing topic all about how to reclaim your time and focus on strategic growth and what truly matters. Imagine having the freedom to pour your energy into your big ideas and your vision without getting bogged down by the endless tasks of the day to day. Sounds pretty great, right? Well, that is exactly what we're going to be exploring today. So stay tuned and wait because it's going to be worth it. Hey, 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 welcome to today's live stream. I'm Deanna Maio. I'm psyched to be here with you. Let's jump right in. Many business leaders, especially women entrepreneurs, struggle with feeling overwhelmed by an endless to-do list. You get one thing done and you cross it off and it feels so satisfying. And then by the end of the day, 15 other things have added themselves to the list just mysteriously. And instead of focusing on our growth and the strategic projects that will move the needle for our businesses, we often find ourselves bogged down by daily tasks. And you might feel like you're constantly firefighting, unable to trust delegation due to past disappointments. And maybe you're missing out on some big opportunities because you're just stuck in the daily grind. I want you to take a minute to think about how this impacts you. Endless firefighting keeps you from proactive growth. A lack of trust in keeping you from delegating means you're doing far more yourself, which can lead to burnout and missed opportunities. You might be thinking, if I don't do it myself, it won't get done right. Or I can't afford to waste my time on delegating because it's not going to get done right and I'll just have to redo it. And I can promise you that mindset is holding you back from unlocking the true potential of your business. But there's good news. You can reclaim time in your week and focus on what truly matters by mastering some skills. And even if you don't do them perfectly, even if you don't master them, you're still going to be better off than you were before. And today I'm going to be sharing some actionable steps to help you identify key tasks that you can delegate to reclaim some of your time and how you can actually build trust and monitor the progress so things don't go off the rails. Now, if we haven't already met, I'm Deanna Maio. I'm the founder of The Vivid Woman, and I've spent far more years than sometimes I care to say out loud. 19 years helping business leaders build high performing teams and grow their businesses without the headaches of micromanagement and reverse delegation and constant turnover. And when I'm not coaching, I'm all about music and the performing arts, which I think I bring to my approach to make leadership fun and dynamic as well. Now, if you're joining me here live, please comment hashtag live in the comments. That would be great. If you're joining me on the replay, hashtag replay in the comments would be awesome. That helps me be able to follow up with you and make sure you're getting what you need from our work here at the Vivid Woman. And also it helps us out with the Facebook algorithm. And I'd be so grateful. So let's talk about if this is for you or not today so that we don't waste your time. If you have ever felt like your to-do list doesn't ever end, and you can't seem to find time or as much time as you'd like for the strategic work that really drives your business forward, you are in the right place today. If you are overwhelmed by tasks that you know could be handled by someone else, but you're just not really sure how to start with delegating a particular task or project, which I can totally understand. Sometimes it's hard to know where to begin, especially if the the task or the project requires some decision making that, like, the model for which you use to make the decisions is in your own head as the business owner. If you've tried delegating before, but it didn't quite work out the way you hoped it would, and now you're a little hesitant to trust others with some important tasks, it's okay. You're in the right place. I understand. If you wish you could focus on more big picture stuff and less on the daily grind, but you just don't see a clear path to get there, you are in the right place. All right, so let's talk about some ways that this shows up in our day to day lives, right? Being overwhelmed by what feels like endless tasks, it's a pretty common struggle for business leaders, for business owners, especially women entrepreneurs and business leaders. And here are some ways that it shows up. If you feel like you're always putting out some sort of crisis or firefighting instead of focusing on proactive strategic growth, I mean, that can be as simple as having a notification pop up that you have an email from an important client, or a Facebook message, or text messages on your phone. I mean, most of us have our phone within reach all the time. This is mine right here. But, seeing that notification pop up, it's kind of like when toast pops up out of the toaster. It makes a sound and it gets your attention for a reason. Your toast is hot. You probably want to eat it now that it's ready. But we don't have to address emails and text messages and Facebook messages the minute they pop up. And then, of course, there's like actually firefighting, crises, things that pop up that we weren't expecting, that then steal our attention away from the things that we'd really like to be doing. You may have some hesitancy to delegate because of past experiences. Maybe you feel a little burned. So now you just end up doing far too much of it yourself. And this is really common as well. And I don't blame you for being a little gun shy with delegating again. But just because it didn't go right once doesn't mean it will always be that way if you make some changes. And these are not tough changes to make. I'm going to be sharing some of my key tips with you today. When we spend so much time on our daily tasks, we miss out on opportunities to innovate, to expand, to be doing the things that would grow our business bigger. So you might be secretly thinking, like, if I don't do it myself, it won't get done right. But the truth is, that's not always true. And it certainly doesn't have to be true. If you practice effective delegation strategies, you can unlock your business's potential. And it can give you freedom to focus on what truly matters, whether that's in the business or maybe it's in your personal life, like having time off. Am I talking crazy here? Some of you are like, time off. What is that? Another language? No, it can exist, but you have to put some things in place so you can actually be present in your time off with the people and the passions that you really love instead of always thinking about the business. I've been there. There are phases. I feel like my life and my business goes in phases of working too much, working the right balance, feeling overwhelmed, not feeling overwhelmed. And, some of that is by choice, right? I decide to take on a project at a particular time that makes me busier. But most of the time when I talk to our clients and our programs, it wasn't a conscious choice. It's something that's happening as a result of not having the skills that they need to be able to delegate and take advantage of the team that they have, in a respectful, thorough, thoughtful way, or an unconscious choice or subconscious choice based on some programming we have that's not supporting us as much as we could stand to be supported. Usually comes down to a feeling of not being good enough or not wanting to disappoint, or I need to say yes to this thing because I need the clients, I need the money, I need to prove. It could also be because we don't believe what we want, true work-life balance is possible for us. We have some subconscious programming in there that is telling us that that's not possible, which of course it's not true. All of that is based on stuff that happened a long time ago, and the current situation you're in is just triggering that programming. So let's talk about how you can reclaim your time and focus on strategic growth. Yeah? Okay, I've got some tips for you today. Now, some of these tips may be things you've heard before, but maybe you're not implementing them. Some of them might be new. I encourage you to take them in with an open mind, a beginner's mind. Yeah. And instead of focusing on how something can't work for you because it didn't work for you before or didn't work for your best friend or whatever the excuse might be, look at how could I make this work for me? Yeah. Okay. The first thing is to identify key tasks. It can be challenging to distinguish critical tasks that you have to do from those that can be delegated. And so you end up doing too much yourself, which your focus then becomes on the day to day and on those tasks instead of being able to focus on growth. And man, it's tough because we may have been burned. Also, there are some things that you might like and you might really like doing that you could delegate to someone else, but you don't want to give it up because you enjoy it. And it can also be because maybe there are parts of it where you want to be involved. So you hesitate to delegate it because you don't realize you can delegate parts of it. But clear task identification and knowing what you could delegate empowers you to effectively delegate. So, a way to get started would be to make a list of tasks you do daily and then just categorize them into only those that those things that only you can do, and then what others could handle if they had some training, either in whole or in part. Now, I would argue that there should be no task in your business that you couldn't delegate if you wanted to. I mean, you're special, you're unique. I believe in you as an individual, but if your business really depends on you and only you, that's not much of a business. That's not, you don't have any risk management built in. You need redundancy. Now, yes, here I am leading this live stream. Would I expect anyone else on my team to do this? No. But would the business die if I skipped a week of live streaming? No, it wouldn't. See what I mean? Okay, tip number 2, and that's all about delegating smartly. When we've had delegation failures or missteps, you can be really hesitant to trust others with important tasks. And I've had it too. Excuse me. And then, if you've been in that situation, what often ends up happening is you spend more time correcting mistakes. And that time that you are fixing whatever needs to be fixed could have been time you were spending on something strategic. I actually did something like that this week. I delegated a task, but I wasn't clear in my instructions. So when I went to go check on the work product, I realized I made a mistake and it needed to be fixed. It was not the person who I delegated to's fault, it was mine. So I'm not immune to all of this either. Things happen. And the truth is, we can match our tasks to our team members' strengths for successful delegation. And so now many of you are thinking, well, I don't have more than one person on my team, Deanna. Okay. Consider yourself in that as well. What are your strengths? I am not someone that enjoys doing math, especially in my head, right? Or out loud. I do enjoy spreadsheets because they do the math for me. But when it comes to detail-oriented work, sometimes I'm not the best person on my team to do it. It's just not where my brain loves to be. And I have to work harder at doing that kind of work. So it'd be really smart if I delegated that to someone on my team whose strengths align with that, right? So I want to encourage you, when you look at a task that you can delegate, think about who on your team has some strengths aligned with the task requirements, or who could use the opportunity of that task to help develop a skill. All right, let's talk about tip number 3, monitoring progress. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I know some of you delegate things to your team and you never follow up. You just expect it's going to get magically done. Well, there's no such thing as magic in business. We need to monitor progress. We need to follow up. And when we have an important task and we're not clear on the progress of that task, that uncertainty can lead to anxiety and can lead to us micromanaging the people on our team. So then they feel stifled and we waste time unnecessarily checking in on things, micromanaging them. Instead, oh my gosh, excuse me. Man, I've been staying out way too late lately listening to some amazing music. Okay. We don't want to have unnecessary check-ins, and we don't want to have check-ins like every single day. That doesn't help anybody. But regular check-ins, not specific to a task, they help us foster trust and build relationship with our team members. And we can also make sure that we're checking in on longer term tasks or projects and making sure that the progress is moving forward at the pace we'd like and that the work product is coming up to be what we want it to be. And one of the best ways I know of to do this is to have a regular weekly one-to-one meeting with your team members. These are like your relationship building, trust building insurance policies. And you can review larger projects, review task progress, and you can provide feedback as well. But if you don't have this meeting scheduled on a regular basis, I can guarantee you it's probably not going to happen. And what's really cool about the way that we teach one-to-one meetings here at the Vivid Woman is you can catch things before they get too big. You know, in our time management course, Time Turnaround, we talk about how certain tasks are important but not urgent, and then eventually they become urgent, and it's like a little ember that has now burst into a gigantic fire. When you have one-to-ones every week with your team members, you're catching those embers before they explode into big fires. It helps you catch things before they become really negatively impactful. And especially if you're working with your team and they're remote, having those regular check-ins allows you to build a relationship instead of them just being at their computer and you're at your computer and you never converse. You just do everything by email or Slack or chat. But I think when business owners do that, they kind of forget that the person on the other end of that email is a human being. And we want to be building relationships with real humans, not just treating each other like a robot on the end of an email address. Okay, let's talk about the next tip. And it's all about trusting your team. When we don't have trust with our team members or they don't have trust with us, we are really limited in what we can delegate and how much ownership they can have over a task, how much buy-in they have into a task or the company mission. And when this happens, they feel undervalued. You probably feel undervalued too, and your growth will just stop. So we need to start building trust gradually. As we do that, then we can gradually increase our delegations. And one way to do this is just by delegating a small task to a team member and being really, really clear in the instructions and the expectations and provide support, and also make sure that there's plenty of time to complete that work. It's really difficult to be building trust by delegating a task when you have a very tight time frame. So add some buffer time, delegate it, make sure that the instructions are clear, have them feed back to you what the instructions and the expectations are. And I would also add in there, maybe build in some milestones where you're checking the progress along the way, because then you can catch it before it gets too big, before it gets too off track of what you envisioned. Because I know sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you want something to end up being. You know, it's hard to identify what those final expectations should, you know, what the expectations are for the final project or the final work product are. But if you have little check ins along the way, then you can provide feedback you can create a new iteration, and you can keep closer and getting closer and closer to the endpoint you want, instead of veering off track to where you have something at the end that you can't even use. It's not even what you wanted. All right. So I've got one more tip for you, but before I do, I want to talk about how much easier our life can be when you have delegation happening on a regular basis in your business, and how much easier it would be if you had a tool that simplifies delegating, removes guesswork for your team members, and guarantees that tasks are being done correctly. And that's exactly what you get when you pick up a copy of my one-page delegation simplifier. This tool it seems so simple, but it gives you exactly what you need to include in your delegation instructions to avoid back and forth questions, misunderstandings, miscommunications, and, in many cases, a work product at the end of the delegation that you can't even use. And when you have these important elements in your delegation instructions, not to mention there's other tips in the one-page delegation simplifier too, your team morale is going to go up, productivity is going to be better, and you're going to make more money because you're going to be free from having to do that task yourself. And you're going to have the peace of mind and the brain space to focus on the bigger picture. So I want to invite you to pick up a copy for yourself over at deanna.live/delegate. You can use the link that's at the bottom of the screen here, or you can use the QR code that's in the upper corner here to pick up a copy for yourself. All right. My last tip for you today is really all about what happens when we are overcommitted to daily tasks and our focus on strategic growth it's just gone. We have to focus on what's in front of us, and we miss business opportunities. We miss out on growth opportunities. And if we're not careful, we face some serious burnout. But effective delegation can unlock time for strategic activities. It can unlock time for business expansion, and it can unlock time for you to have some brain space and some time for yourself, right? If we're talking about reclaiming time in your week, it doesn't mean you have to use all of that time back on your business. Maybe you go to a movie. Maybe you go get a pedicure. Maybe you just go and sit outside at a park for a little bit and feed the ducks and not think about work. So one way to do that is as you free up your time, be really mindful of, how do I want to use this? Now that I've delegated this task to my team or this project, what do I want to do with it? And if you're like me, you keep a list of new ideas, new plans for the future, things to do someday when you have time. But you could also just choose consciously, I'm going to use that time to recharge. I'm going to use that time to focus on me, my own mental and emotional and physical health. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to meet a friend for coffee or tea. It doesn't mean you have to use the reclaimed time for work, but you can. And if you do, I want you to use it for strategic things, for growth things, for things that only you as the business owner can do, not more of the day to day that will keep you busy and won't necessarily grow the business. And when you do this, when you put these tips into action and you have more time to focus on strategic initiatives, you are going to have growth. Your team will feel more empowered and engaged because they're being trusted with more work, and they're recognizing their impact on the business and on you, which leads to higher productivity. Your own stress level is going to go down. You're going to be avoiding burnout by not doing so much yourself. The business is more adaptable because there's somebody else that can do that thing that you were once doing only yourself, which is great because if something were to happen to you, you have a backup. Smart businesses have redundancy. They have backup. And you should see a pretty significant improvement in efficiency and effectiveness for you and for your team. So before we wrap up for today, I want to invite you again to get your copy of the one-page delegation simplifier to make delegating easier and faster, removing the guesswork, stopping those back and forth questions to clarify details so that your tasks are getting done right within the time frame you allotted for them. And that's exactly what the one-page delegation simplifier offers. You can get your copy over at deanna.live/delegate. And I know you're going to love it. Once you get it, I will, maybe I'll follow up with you and find out how it's going for you. Because I know if you put it into practice, it will change the way you do business. All right, friends. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today and exploring how to reclaim your time and focus on what truly matters. I hope you found these insights valuable. I want to invite you to be staying tuned for my next video where we'll continue our journey towards creating high-performing, profitable teams that help you free up your time for what matters most. I'll be sharing strategies and tips and inspiration to help you lead with confidence and achieve remarkable results. I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Until then, take really, really good care and have a fantastic day.